Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a good day and a warm welcome from Zagreb, from our office. My name is Marko Ercegović. I will be your host and moderator today. As you already know, the topic of our today webinar is affordable housing. Before going into details, I would ask Lana to show us some housekeeping rules. Yeah, I assume most of you are quite familiar with these tips and rules. So the webinar is being recorded. You will have the opportunity to watch it later or to send it to your colleagues. You can ask your questions or send some comments via chats or question and answers. We will try to answer it immediately, but if not able to do that, we will try to reach you later and provide you with the answer you asked for. In any way, yeah, one other thing that is important, we will have some polls going on in our webinar. We would like some answers from you, so be prepared to take a few minutes of your time to answer some of our questions. It will help us in moderating our discussion and so on. Let me put up my presentation. Yes. So just for those who are following us from Croatia, if you will be more easier to follow us in Croatian, there's an opportunity to do so. Below the screen, there is an option to switch on the Croatian interpretation. So please do that as you like. So let's go on with our agenda. After a short introduction by my side, we will go on by presentation of our notable speakers. I will introduce them a bit later. Before going into discussion, we will have a short break to mark the half of our webinar. During the discussion, you are warmly invited to raise questions and comments. And after that, we will have a short presentation on EUI and URBACT news. After which we will close the webinar, hopefully before noon. Basically, as you probably know, this webinar is being organized by URBACT Contact Point and National URBACT Point. The role of both of these entities is being implemented by the Association of Cities in the Republic of Croatia. Our main task is to raise awareness, reach out and communicate about these two programs, to present the opportunities, outputs and results to potential users and applicants. In most cases, those are cities. And one of our important things when we talk about our task is dissemination and sharing information on available urban knowledge. So yeah, we can see this webinar as part of this mission. All in all, our final goal in doing these activities is to promote sustainable urban development in Europe, and of course in Croatia. So one other let's continue. Yeah, a few words about URBACT. It's a program of European territorial cooperation that's been going on from 2002. It enables exchange among the cities within thematic networks by building the skills of city administration and local stakeholders to design and implement integrated and participatory policies. One of their important mission is sharing knowledge and good city practices. For those of you who are not familiar with URBACT, I invite you to check out their website. Has a lot of interesting and useful materials. Our other program which helped us to organize this is European Urban Initiative. It's a rather recent tool which aims to support cities of all size, aimed at building capacity and knowledge, and especially supporting innovation. Unlike URBACT, which puts efforts in networking, UI is all about innovation and developing transferable and scalable innovative solutions to urban challenges, which is relevant for European cities throughout the member states. So yeah, when we talk about the topic of the affordable housing, I assume most of you have a strong opinion on this issue, but yeah, let's say some important things. Affordable housing is one of the most widespread social aims of the housing policy in Europe. Whether we consider housing as a human right, elementary need, or commodity, simple commodity, the emergence of unaffordable housing is a clear symptom of dysfunctional housing system. This can have a profound impact on society, and to treat these dysfunctions, we need to understand the root of its causes. Affordability challenges have various effects on different types of households, different income brackets, different housing tenures, even territorial aspects or citizen behavior. The continued and territorially diversified increase of housing costs, especially price and rent, affected the level of supply. This supply does not meet demand, not only in quantitative terms, but also in relation to spatial standards, quality, design, and security. There are some difference among the member states, but in general, all these aspects resulted in worsening overall affordability, preventing European citizens from accessing housing. Croatia is not an exemption to this rule. When we talk about these effects, on average, every 10% in the EU lives in a household where housing costs represent more than 40% of disposable income. This especially affects lower and middle income households, young people, and vulnerable groups such as elderly or people with disabilities, many of whom are deprived of the chance to access decent housing. Due to this, the affordable housing became a rising policy issue recently, let's say. One of the first response to this problem by European policymakers was the establishment of the Housing Partnership of Urban Agenda, which published its action plan in 2010. This is like 1 decade after the financial crisis of 2008. In 2020, the European Commission adopted its renovation wave strategy with the Affordable Housing Initiative, which aims to see 35 million renovated buildings. Experience of COVID-19 pandemics, war in Ukraine, and high inflation demanded a kind of re-evaluation of these existing approaches to housing. So in 2021, European Parliament drafted and adopted a resolution on the access of decent and affordable housing for all. This paved the way for several declarations adopted by the member states ministers responsible for housing, namely a declaration from Nice, Gijón, and Liège. All of them, although in various degrees of importance, highlighted the need for public action as a response to worsening of the affordable housing situation in the EU. The last declaration from Liège was especially direct in regard to this message. Finally, we consider this topic important because Croatia is drafting its first housing strategy in Croatia, which should provide a solid framework for affordable housing. So, while most of these declarations and strategies were adopted by national or European actors, the real struggle, like in so many other cases, happens on local level. We want to find out what options for affordable housing are open to local authorities, to hear some interesting city practices that will inspire you to try similar actions in cities. For our mission today, we will have the help of several urban practitioners and experts, but before introducing them and giving the floor, I kindly ask you to answer our first question. So please, Lana, we have a first question. How do you rate the state of affordable housing in your city? Please take a few moments to answer it, and I will go to introduce our presenters. Yeah, the first one, and I'm very happy to introduce them all. Our first speaker is Laura Colini. She's an expert, ad hoc expert for URBACT program and researcher at the University at Brnin. Laura has an extensive professional experience focusing on public policies addressing migrants, refugees, and housing. She's also a senior urban policy expert that worked for over 20 years with EU programs and initiatives. Laura, hello. We also have Mr. Balázs Humayer, International Project Manager in the City of Budapest. Budapest has a rather extensive experience in URBACT as well, but today we will be focusing more on their current innovative project funded under EUI. The project is directly linked with our today's theme, affordable housing. Our third speaker is Miss Ivana Brnin. Ivana is head of Mayor's Department of City of Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik is the most successful Croatian city when comparing the experience and networking in URBACT. The city was a partner in 4 networks in the previous iteration of the program and another 3 networks in the current programming period. In addition to that, City of Dubrovnik is implementing concrete measures to address the housing issues, which is especially interesting due to the fact that their housing market is strongly affected by tourism and short-term rentals. And our final speaker is Ms. Lucia Yusuf. She's my colleague from the Association of Cities, co-working as a MIP and UCP. So, without further delay, I would ask Ivana to start her presentation. But before doing that, Lana, can we see just shortly the results of the? Okay. So yeah, as expected, most of you, almost 85% said that their situation, their state of affordable housing in their cities is bad or very bad. That is, of course, unfortunate, but it shows that this kind of discussions and exchange of topics is important. So hopefully, I believe that this will be useful for you. Please enjoy our session and ask whatever you think is important. Ivana, the floor is yours. Please continue.
Thank you very much. So hello to everybody. My name is, as Marko said, Ivana Brnin, and I'm head of Mayor's Office of the City of Dubrovnik. And today I will present you the measures and programs about housing that are provided by the city. So as we all know, almost the old cities, not only in Croatia but in Europe, are facing the same issues and problems about housing. But of course, every city has its own specifics, like Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik, as a popular tourist destination in Croatia, has been taking steps towards sustainable tourism to mitigate the impact of mass tourism on its own historic sites and local community. So the housing construction program in Dubrovnik has been a significant focus due to the city's popularity as a tourist destination, which has, of course, impact housing affordability for the local residents. So the city has been working on various affordable housing projects aimed at providing reasonable price for home for locals. So alongside housing construction, there is also focus on developing the necessary infrastructure such as roads, public transportation, schools, healthcare facilities, and to support growing residential areas. So just a second. The measures and so the challenges we face regarding housing, where so the national program POS for Dubrovnik, it was not quite good because of the Dubrovnik trends on market. So the construction land, the price of constructing, and so on. Also, the APN housing loans are not good for us because in the other way, we have a good standards, we have a high budget of the city. And the biggest problem that we are facing right now, and before, of course, is short-term rental. So I mentioned tourism and all the Dubrovnik's urban planning efforts, including zoning regulations, to ensure that the new housing developments meet the needs of the community. This includes, of course, restrictions on short-term rentals and the development of residential areas. Now I'll just add the measures that are provided before and still going in the city of Dubrovnik. So we were supporting young families up to 35 years of age with the compensation for housing costs. Of course, also these measures address the housing challenges in Dubrovnik, balancing the need for affordable housing with sustainable development and heritage, of course, preservation. So they were managed to for low-income families, young professionals, and other vulnerable groups. And from all these measures, we get the information about the needs for our citizens. So one of the first projects that we have was Project Mokoshica. So this investment was realized in cooperation with Ministry of Veterans. Out of 108 apartments, 65 were allocated to veterans, victims of the homeland war from the Dubrovnik area, and 43 apartments were given to the city, and these were then allocated to young Dubrovnik families for long-term rental. In this project, with cooperation with the Ministry of Veterans, so the City of Dubrovnik donated land for free of charge, covered the expense of municipality infrastructure, and we buy these 43 apartments that we then allocate to young families. Complete the process. For us, it was very important to involve residents in the planning and decision-making process for this decision through public consultation surveys and community meetings. So it was all very transparent, live broadcast of application opening, data release, insights, and for 4 of these 43 apartments, we gave to our doctors of Dubrovnik Healthcare. One was given to the Institute for Emergency Medicine and Dubrovnik General Hospital, and the 4th was given to the needs of Maslina Children's Home. So through this project, we allocate these 39 apartments to Dubrovnik families for really, for Dubrovnik, very small rent on the period of 10 years. And by that, we are giving, that long term, we are giving these families also the some type of security. So the other project that it's very important for us. So especially by the specifics in the old town city, we want to, we don't want to make Dubrovnik as a museum, especially in the city walls. We want live city, and that's why we renovate existing stock. We are renovating and upgrading existing public housing to improve living conditions. And as part of the unique Dubrovnik housing program, in accordance with the Croatian First World Heritage Management Plan for the historic core and the priority housing list for renting apartments in the historic core to families with multiple children. So 3 families with a total of 12 children have so far moved in the area within the city walls. In May 2024, keys were handed over to the first 2 families, and the 3rd family with 3 children were handed keys just 2 days ago by our mayor. These apartments was completely renovated beforehand. The total project cost was 170,000 euros, and it was fully funded by the city of Dubrovnik budget. A public tender for the renovation of 3 more apartments owned by the city is currently underway, and within additional 420,000 euros allocated also from the city budget for this proposal, of course. And it's a plan to obtain homes this way for 6 families in 2024. Of course, we are keep going. We are continuing with buying specifically these apartments in the city walls, which are now in private, but they were renting them for the short term through the platforms Airbnb, Booking, and so on. And now the city is buying these apartments, and through the tender, giving it to the young families with children, and bringing the life in the city walls in that way. And also in that way, we also built a new school, primary school in the city walls, and there are a lot more measures for these families that are decided to come back and live in the city, in the old part of Dubrovnik. The newest measure that we have is 30-30 measure. So it aims to assisting young Dubrovnik families by providing non-repayable financial assistance in the amount of 30,000 euros for for buying their first property, new apartment, or construction, extension, or upgrade of their buildings, for example, family houses or something like that. So in June 2024, the contracts were signed with two first families. The public call remains open until the funds are exhausted or the end of the calendar year, whichever comes first. And all conditions and necessary documentation are specified in the public call. And of course, in the next budgeting, we are also planning the same amount for this measure. These are plans of the city of Dubrovnik for the future. So we have a project of 50 new apartments in Solitudo. That's one part of the city of Dubrovnik. It's urban area, and in this project is also including all the facilities needed for quality of life of these families, the kindergarten, and so on. Also, Dubrovnik is very specific also because of his territory. It's very small and hilly, and we don't have any more space in the city center to build new apartments. So we decided to for urbanization a completely new area. First, we built a road to this area, and the city by 75,000 square meters, and we are still buying a new. And we are planning to give the land also through the public tender to the young families, and so they can build their homes there. Also, we are with our hospitality. We have some agreements, and we are providing measures for the specific categories, such as doctors and other medical workers, because in that way we are not only helping deaf people, but we are helping the whole every citizen in Dubrovnik, because healthcare and medicine is something very, very important, and it gives security to our citizens. So in this way, we are trying to reduce immigration, provide housing for young people through affordable and safe housing, and ensure housing for people performing bottleneck occupations, increase labor mobility. This is all from me at this moment, and I am open to any questions if you need.
Ivana, thank you very much for these valuable insights. Actually, we have one question raised by our audience. It states like this: how many housing units are owned by the city in the historical center and outside of the historical center?
We have about 180 apartments owned by the city, but also, and they are all, almost all, people are living there, and in good cooperation with the ministry, now we are getting 20 new apartments that are owned by the state, and they will give us that apartments. We will renovate them, and also through the tender give them for the long term to the young families. And most of these apartments are in the old city.
Yeah, this is very interesting example because a lot of our cities and European cities are facing demographic loss in the city centers. So this is very valuable.
Also, the one information that we have in the city of Dubrovnik is 4,000 empty apartments that are not using at all. So we are trying with cooperation with the national government to put some efforts that we use that apartments also for the long-term rental for our residents.
Great. Okay, so not to delay our agenda, Ivana, there are several other questions in the question and answer. So I invite you to check it out and maybe if you're able to type an answer, or we can come back them later during the discussion. In any case, thank you for the questions. We will answer them soon enough. Okay, but let's go. Before going to other speaker, I would like to ask Lana to raise our next survey question, in which we want to find out what kind of measures does your city implement to address affordable housing. So please take a few minutes to do that. Ivana, please close your presentations so that Balázs can start his own. Okay, Lana, can we see some answers for this poll? Public housing for renting is on top. Discounts on reliefs on utility fees on housing costs, and there are something else, and at least 15% of them do not have any measures. So okay, there's definitely room for improvement, but cities are doing what they can in scope of their abilities. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Balázs. You have the floor. Please present us the innovative project of Budapest.
Thank you, Marko, for the invitation. Hello, everybody. I'm Balázs Humayer from Municipality of Budapest. I'm working for the project management department as a project lead for AHA Budapest. And I would like to show you now a few information about our project. First, about a few words about the municipality, then the objectives, the solution, and about the partners. So about the Municipality of Budapest, just a few words that it led by the mayor, and we have a mayor's office where the chief clerk is operating a 900 employees operation with 14 departments, and these departments are the project management, and just a quick overview about the EU programs. We made more than 800 million euro grant in the last two EU phase from 2007 till now, and now we are running 14 direct EU funded projects. Now it's a focus on the municipality, these projects, including the AHA. And maybe it's interesting that we are strongly working with horizontal and thematic departments in the mayor's office and with a lot of municipality-owned companies, from transport to utilities to greener management. So about our project, this is from our mayor, Gergely Karácsony, that the main goal is to have a livable Budapest, which can be achieved without affordable housing, and that's how we applied for EUI. First call, it was the new European Bauhaus, and I'm not sure that you are familiar with this initiative, but the three phrase beautiful, sustainable, and inclusive, these are the most important point of the new European Bauhaus. And in this call, there was a theme, a topic where we applied to transform unused building for affordable housing. And for that, we had a grant, nearly 5 million euro. And recently started this project in this March. And we will finish it in 27 August. So it's a 3.5 year long project. The location is in Budapest, Hungary. And we say that Budapest is like a laboratory of the Budapest Housing Agency. So about our targets that we would like to achieve, the main is to expand the social housing in Budapest. For that, we are working on three different parts. The first is to piloting new so-called flexible housing schemes. It means that not only unused or empty dwellings that we would like to work with, but those families that are currently living in their private apartment, but they can't afford the housing costs, or they are in energy poverty, and we can help them. I will tell more about them. The second part is to use unused public buildings. For that, we chose a school building, which is abandoned in the last 15 years, and we will refurbish this school building for a affordable rental housing building with 26 apartments. And the third one is to help the Budapest Housing Agency to find new groups of property owners, because we see that it's a challenge to find new supply for affordable housing from the private sector. So this is the first target. The second target is according to energy efficiency, and with this we make energy efficient renovation, not just in city-owned properties, but in private-owned apartments. We will make 15 pilot projects in it. The second, that we will make a one-stop shop energy efficiency consultancy point in the municipality of so in the main building of the city hall. And the third one is a revolving solidarity fund that we start with the aim to help people they are in huge energy poverty. So that was the second topic, the energy poverty. And the third one is the destigmatizing the social rental housing. We see it's a big problem in Budapest that the social rental housing has a stigma, and not just the system, but the people they are living in. So the first point is that we are starting a new so-called early warning system, which is an innovative service to try to avoid the housing loss. I will tell more about that. The second is try to involve the tenants in the housing maintenance of the housing agency. And the third one is to make new cooperation models with the private sector, with banking and other private companies in the affordable housing model. So, and these are the three targets, and how will we achieve it? The solution is an integrated housing service model, and we find 5 modules for this solution that I already mentioned. Early warning system, so it will be an IT system which will support a protocol that the municipality and the utility companies of the municipality work together to find those vulnerable households that are in risk of losing their current housing situation, and for that we will make new protocols to help them to avoid it. The second is that next January we will open a Budapest housing office, and here all those Budapest residents that has housing problems or energy poverty, then they can ask for support. I already told that we will have a revolving social fund. It means that we will give refundable and non-refundable grants for vulnerable households, and from that and from private sector grants or like social responsibility project, we would try to make this revolving social fund in Budapest. The fourth is the demo hub. We call the school building as a demonstration hub to show that how can an unused non-residential building refurbished to an affordable rental house. And the last one is the private sector involvement for this affordable housing. And the last topic, or consortium members, there are 9 members. Budapest is the lead partner. We have a communication agency, Budapest brand, an architect company, an IT company. There is a sorry, there is a noise. We have some. So, so there is a NGO called Streets to Home Association. There is a market research company, an urbanist company, another association from the Contemporary Architecture Center, and last is an Energy Efficiency Institute. And we are very happy to have 3 transfer partners. One is Pula, the second is Breda from Netherlands, and Alphafar from Valencia. So for the last, a few picture about the school building. So this is the current situation, and these are the plans that it will turn to social houses. This is the garden and how it will look like. And the last, it's like a classroom, you see, and how will it look like as a new apartment. So thank you for the presentation, and sorry if there's a noise from the background.
Balázs, thank you very much for your presentation. I didn't hear any noise, so I assume that the headsets you're using are good to prevent it. Thank you once more. This was very exciting for me to hear, especially in this context that you have a Croatian partner involved in the transfer of knowledge and know-how. I believe there are some colleagues from Pula following us, so warm hello to them. We will tackle a bit these issues of partnership and transfer of knowledge later. For now, thanks once more for your presentation. Lana, could we see, please, next survey question before going to Laura? So, to follow up Balázs' presentation, does your city have empty or unused buildings that could be transformed into affordable or social housing? Please take a few seconds, moments to answer it. And while we wait for the answers to come up, I would like to invite Laura as our final speaker in this block to present to open her presentation. I should do that if I'm correct. Just a sec. Laura will talk more about EU housing practices in EU. Before giving the floor, just a short comment on the poll question. The majority of audience and their cities have probably good potential to transform old and unused buildings for affordable and social housing. So this is something that we should definitely consider when thinking potential interventions. Laura, hello, please, the floor is yours.
Yes. Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone, and thanks for inviting me to this webinar. I have to introduce a little bit myself because, as you know, my name is Laura Colini. I wrote here URBACT and Testere and University of Venice, but also I'm working for UIA and EUI. So because I've been on the European Urban Project for more than 20 years, so I want to correct what Marko kindly said before. I'm not an ad hoc expert because I'm not working now for URBACT, but I have been working for URBACT as a program expert for many, many years. And so that's why I'm able to tell you what I'm going to tell now because of my previous role. Because I work for Urban Innovative Action, which is now called EUI. The previous presentation was referring to that. So just to say that I have somehow an overview of the main two programs like UIA, now EUI, and URBACT, and I have been in charge for last year's, before 2022, of a program that brought together all the networks and cities that were working on housing. And I was following also the urban agenda for the EU on affordable housing. So to say that my view crosses different fields in relation to housing. But what I'm going to do today is to give some little flashes, I would say, on few projects. Next, please. Thanks for showcasing. So first of all, I just want to give you an overview. Housing policies is not a mandate of the European Commission, so that's clear. But there has been ongoing attention to city level and neighborhood regeneration from the end of the 90s. First, we had direct funding with Urban 1 and Urban 2. And then it took a long time until we get direct funding to cities for experiments, as in the Urban Innovative Action. So the funding, direct funding from the European Commission to cities now come in the form of the UIA. But otherwise, which is the line very low there, but then otherwise this funding will go to cities through programs for exchanges like URBACT. URBACT is meant to support cities to develop strategic plans with technical support, but also through peer learning, where the UIA is direct using funding up to 5 million euros to do the experimentation like the one we heard before from Budapest. None of these two are focusing exclusively on housing. They have this broad overview of urban policies. So to say none of the people inside there just look at the housing like this with a narrow perspective, we'll look at it in relation with a broader view on urban policy. I don't get more into details of the overview, but just to say that when we talk about housing policies in Europe, we need to keep in mind that the direct funding for housing is related maybe to energy efficiency and other with different kinds of measures, but not exactly on policies, because they respect the sovereignty of the member states. So next, please, just to give you a sense of what are the programs, we can be very quickly here. So we are as a program for the URBACT within the cohesion policy, and URBACT is basically doing this work of fostering sustainable integrated development in different types of territories with peer learning. Next, please. URBACT has many cities I had over the years. So this, you will see that I started working with URBACT in 2004. So I had the fortune, I would say, to see many cities working with this program. And I can tell that for many years, we had no network working on housing. So it's very recent that this program is working on this. Next, please. This is a complicated figure. I'm not explaining all the details, but what I wanted to let you know that there is a EUI governance, this European Urban Initiative, that brings together now for the first time the programs like URBACT, the initiative like EUI, which is now called the initiative of UIA, now called EUI, sorry, all these acronyms, but that's the European Commission. So to say that you had the program that did the exchange, you had the program that gives directly the money to city to experiment, you had the research like the JRC working on housing, and now they are somehow working into a governance mechanism to support cities to do capacity building, knowledge communication, and experiment on innovative action and share this information. So that's where we are now in terms of programming activities for cities, sustainable integrated urban regeneration. Next, please. So then the question is, what is the role of the municipalities if the Commission doesn't have a mandate? If there is this governance structure with this different programs and projects, what can cities do next? They can do a lot. The activities that I was coordinating as a program expert and UIA expert was this one called Cities Engaging in the Right to Housing. Now you will find it translated into Portugal. It's not completely done, this translation, but we had several online talks and discussions with researchers, policymakers, people from different organizations like FIANCE, Housing Europe, International Union of Tenants, discussing collaborative housing, inclusion, and fair finance, using examples from URBACT and UIA. So if you still Google this initiative, you could see what many of the projects like the one in Budapest. The Budapest one is very recent. It's a new frame, as I said before, EUI. But there are very similar examples which are good to see that cities can, in fact, do a lot in terms of experimenting at local level, taking into account of the multi-scalar policy environment for housing policies. So I'm going to tell you some few projects that you find here in this right to housing approach initiative. Actually, it was an initiative, and I'm not going to dig specifically on this project, just to look at it. So that's one of the network that was within URBACT. I have to say, it was the first network that we had within URBACT, completely dedicated to questions of housing, and learning and thinking strategically on how cities can improve, first of all, information on data on people that are experiencing homelessness, and also what kind of cities policies can be put in place in terms of housing first, for instance, starting from the commitments of the city of Ghent, which was the lead partner. Next, please. So you will see that there were many different cities that were involved in this project. They had different foci or different focus in their project. For instance, Ghent wanted to find different housing solution with tailored support to specific target groups. We had the city of Odense that was already very advanced in housing first and was very interesting to tell the case of Odense to inspire other cases. We had the city of Thessaloniki that didn't have social housing public stock, but it was trying to implement for the first time housing first. And so the cities working together, they designed a strategy really to implement what was the most important need in this topic. Next one was another network. So you don't see here something really realized because these are exchange networks, right? This is another type of network that starts from a good practice. So we had a competition of good practice, and then you had other cities that learned from that case. Example could be the city of Dubrovnik used the mechanism of the right of first refusal in the city center, and then creates a network of other cities to say, how do we do that? How can we implement the same approach in other cities? And that was the case of the city of Chemnitz, that was working on creating a social rental agency. And one of the results of this transfer network was to produce a guidance. How do you start creating a social rental agency in your cities that is not there? And how do you use dilapidated and vacant buildings to become part of the cycle of the production of affordable housing, for instance, in your own city? So that was also a very interesting case. Next case, now I move to not on the exchange of the networks, but on the funding of the UIA, which is now called EUI. Funding directly given to cities, the 5 million euros, as we were saying before, to experiment. So it's the city like Budapest, but in this case it's Mataró. We had Brussels, we had Ghent, we had Lyon Métropole that were identifying innovative ideas to deliver affordable housing, some of them focusing more, for instance, on inclusion of homelessness and empowerment of people, like the Silk Road. Yes, We Rent is a cooperative of tenants. The eco housing in Budapest, again, another case from Budapest, was an housing project with also using technology for regenerating that housing stock. And then Calico, which was the one I was following, my dear case, that is a community land trust. It's a non-speculative housing project. So next, please. I still have 3 minutes, so I will dash through the cases. So this is Calico, is an intergenerational housing that was created using the approach of the community land trust. In few words, it means that the land stays in a form of emphyteus, in a forms of lease to trust, which is the community land trust, the Brussels, and so to say, to prevent the speculation on the land because it's leased to the trust. And then the building is actually in the usual model of, which is the American model of the community land trust, the apartments are sold to the people belonging to the trust. They become but in this case they experimenting in renting through the creation of cooperatives, and they had different cooperatives inside that the same building, one focusing on feminist with a feminist approach. So for women over 50, they could not access credits to buy an apartment, but also single women, young single women with children. And then you had another part that was focusing on health and medical support from life to death. That was called the passage. And so here was an experiment using an American model, or UK based or British based, I would say, model of the community land trust in Europe. That was one of the first experiments for intergenerational living. Next, please. So that's the work that they did to have to create a language and a feminist approach to housing. Many workshops have been held within in the facilitation of the process. Next, please. Of course, I can say more next of all these cases and getting more into details. This is another different case that was in the call of also UIA, but not specifically on housing. It was on migration, and this is the reuse of an old hospital. Next, please. I like this case because it has some innovative ideas also in lowering the rent. As you see here, they renovated the building, which was a big challenge within the frame of the 3 years of UIA, but they succeeded. And they created apartments that were meant for people with migration background that could not access the free market. So they had access to apartments, so the prices was lower, not that much lower of the free market. But what is interesting is that the municipality created a new form of contracts that the prices of the rents could be lowered in case the inhabitants would invest into social work. So they had a garden in the backyard and they used it. They created different laboratories. They had a restaurant. They had a market selling vegetables produced in that area. So it creates a sort of a circularity between the cost of the rents, the reduction, the affordability of the rents, and social activities, and animating also the economy of this area, which is a little bit outside of the city center. Next case, it's the case where I am actually sitting here, and it's called Share. It's a new case. It's the same call of the Budapest one that you've seen. I'm the expert of this one, so I just did my first interviews. Sorry. So this is my timing of the 15 minutes. I have like 1 minute more to close. This is a case, a quite interesting case that we didn't have it before within UIA. It's intergenerational housing, but not in the same building. It involves a renovation of the school on one side, very similar to the Budapest case, which is in the city center, like the Dubrovnik one. But they use private houses of elderly people that don't want anymore to stay isolated. So in the schoolhouse, there will be a collaborative co-housing with elderly people with support and and different types of activities in the central part of the area. And then they will renovate this the houses owned by the elderly people for young family, to make sure that the young families can stay in this small city, but they can also emancipate themselves and not to live anymore with their parents. So move please to the next one. So it's a mechanism of renovating and reusing a building, a public building in the city because of shrinkage. And here they have a different mechanism to do that I'm not going to tell you now about this because it's too much. So some reflection. So not everything that is called, this is an innovation, like an urban innovative action, is actually an innovation. So that we should also rethink of this rhetoric of transferring good practices and scaling up. So to say, what can we learn out of this? Maybe the case of Bologna, it's not a perfect case, but we can pick some ideas on reinventing forms of contracts that can be more affordable. Next one, having also community life. Next one. So innovation needs to pass the test of time. And also this innovation that we have, they also they serve the purpose to create new experiments to respond to urgent and some needs that are not met by current policy. So it's important to inject more ambition. So even though they are not perfect, but they create so to say an environment that is pushing the boundaries of what we now have with new forms of tenures. So they needs to be further encouraged. And I believe, that's my opinion, that experiment cannot substitute public investment in housing. So we really need to have a political engagement because single projects, although they create an environment of experimentation and new ideas, they won't be enough if they are not multi-scalar and if they not achieve, so to say, the national level as well. So, and that's why it is also important to contribute and to have this dialogue at different scales to reach not only the local, to invest only on cities, but to be in continuous dialogue with the national level and European level. And that was one of the role of the urban agenda. So I stop here and sorry for taking 2 minutes more. Thank you very much.
Laura, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, it's always hard to press so many good example and interesting example in 15 minutes, but I think that our audience should, have a sense of feeling of what's going on and what possibilities are there are open for them. So, according to the agenda, we should have 5 minutes break, but since we are a bit late, I would like to ask my panelists, do you need a short break to refresh, or we can go on with the discussion right now? Nobody's answering anything.
For me, we can have questions now because also
Okay.
because I'm apologies, but I have to leave earlier. So if you're curious to know more, really it was very quick. But if you have more information and you want to know more, you're curious, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, so we will go with no, stop share. Okay, let's open discussion. There were some questions already before, but most of it were asked for Ivana and Dubrovnik experience, which most of them are already answered. So Ivana, thank you for that. In the meanwhile, before other colleagues start raising questions, there is one survey question left. So Lana, please put it up. Did your city use any of the available options and or funding from the EU, basically for the affordable funding, but we could also expand this to some other neighboring area, let's say, so energy efficiency, refurbishment, and social partnership, inclusion, and stuff like that. So please answer this in the next few moments, and I will ask my first question. I will go to Balázs because Balázs didn't have any extra questions for him, so I will ask one. Balázs, please, you were mentioning the Budapest has its housing agency. Besides being support for this innovative project, what other kind of activities is this housing agency providing, services providing, and what other measures targeting housing is being implemented?
Yes. Parallel with the AHA Budapest, the Budapest Housing Agency recently started in March, so in the same month, but it's technically another organization, but it's owned by the municipality. The agency has a main goal to find those vacant, empty private apartments in Budapest that could be used for affordable housing. We had last year an official statistic that there is around 100,000 empty apartments in Budapest, so it's a lot. If we go or deep dive and try to understand why, what are these apartments, a lot of are for investment, for not private households, but from companies. A lot of owned by non-Hungarian owners, so they are more investors from abroad. and there are a lot of empty apartments that are empty because the owners, they don't want to rent it, just make a private investment. So it's a challenge for Budapest how to use these apartments for affordable housing. So a campaign started a few months ago, and now we have limited resources for the agency, but I guess 3 colleagues started to make these campaign and get in connection with those people that has empty apartments and are open to give their apartment for the municipality for affordable housing. The model is that the municipality pays 85% of the market price for rental, so it's a bit lower than the owner could get from the private market, but it has a lot of guarantees from the municipality that can make an advantage. So municipality pays 85%, and then the municipality give 70% of the market price as an affordable housing. So it means not social housing but affordable. So it's about 30% less than the market price, and it just started a few months ago. So now we have dozens, like maybe 20 apartments starting this agency, but it's now a new thing. We already have a few districts in Budapest that started 1 or 2 years ago at this agency, and they have limited success. I guess 30, 40 apartments that they could involve.
Yeah, well, it takes time to start up from the from zero, let's say. So yeah, interesting approach. It will be interesting to see if transfer partners will also try to transfer some of these others activities that you have. Okay, we have one question in our question box. It is actually for Laura. Laura, I will say it loudly so you can hear it. So, are there new programs on EU level for supporting regulation of housing prices and investments in affordable housing? So besides what you mentioned, EUI and URBACT, which are basically not tackling the regulation per se, but offering some support for innovation, capacity building, and so on. What else is there in the EU?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think that the question can be seen in a double way. If we go on the very legal aspect, the response is the EU cannot do anything in terms of regulation, because these are a pure matter of the member states. So the member states, they can, when they want, introduce forms of rent control, rental cap, and there is a whole debate and research and in this aspect. The current Horizon Europe, which is the research program for all topics in the European Commission, has dedicated a specific call on housing, and there are 5 groups doing research on housing affordability and inclusion in Europe. And I'm supporting International Union of Tenants in one of these projects. And the research group is looking at regulations, at mapping actually the regulation in all European countries. The lead person in this research is Michelle Norris from Ireland. And so you will see at the end of this 2 year project, the puzzle of the different approach to regulating the housing market, which is at the end very, very local. And in some cases, it gets more complicated than the national level because some cities have the possibilities and capacities to regulate more than other cities. If you take the case of Berlin, there have been many attempts to do so. They actually have been stopped because of the national regulation that, or the national legal system found those regulations illegal. And so the experimentation that were proposed at city level was stopped at national level. So to answer the first part of the question, no, there are no specific regulation in that sense. But at the same time, you have the EPBD, for instance, the directive that is saying that we need to reduce the carbon footprint of in the housing sector. So it is a directive that somehow pushes the member states to invest way more in energy efficiencies in building, existing building and the new building. And so there is a directive, there are instruments to sort of push, and there are also country-specific recommendations that the cities, that the European Commission can do to certain countries to say you should invest more into affordable housing. Then you have the state aid, the whole debate on the state aid and the support for the creation of now the way it is existing on affordable housing. So how the public funding can be directed in a direction to provide more affordable housing, and so on and so forth. So there are many different ways to address the question of affordabilities and its regulation from different perspectives within the European Union. But the simple question is no, they cannot do it. They cannot regulate it because it's so fragmented. It's related to different parameters and variables that change from country to country. So I hope that I answer your question.
There is also follow-up comment on this in the question and answer, saying one issue that is kind of linked to this affordable housing is the discussion in the EU Parliament on regulation of short-term rentals that happened a few days ago, especially in this part where they try to influence and make sure that in international booking platforms register in the national local registries and that they are open for, you know, tax inquiries or whatever else. This could also be a part of these efforts to try to make more order in this chaotic housing market, especially for cities like Dubrovnik and Italian cities and Spanish cities that are facing huge disruptions regarding the touristification of their cities. So yeah, it seems that if we want to rely on European support, let's say, we need to be kind of creative and going besides trying to make some other approach to this affordability. But renovation, as you mentioned, is definitely one issue that is going on for now until at least the end of this decade, which could prove a useful source, at least for some part of financing investments in affordable housing. So I would like to tackle a bit next question that was also raised in comments. So and that Laura also mentioned. The role of the national level. So my first, Ivana, yeah, I will ask you this question so you can also comment. You mentioned that Dubrovnik had the support from the government in certain aspects of these projects you mentioned. From your opinion, how important, how necessary is state support to go into affordable housing projects like those that you mentioned?
Okay. So for now, the state is we are working with the ministry in planning this national plan for housing. So from our perspectives and our experience, sorry, that we have through these programs and all the problems that we were facing it. So we get inputs to the ministry so they can plan this national plan for housing. Cooperation at this moment is, I mentioned these free apartments, empty apartments, not free, empty apartments that are owned by the state. And we want all the empty apartments to get to the city so we can put it in our programs to allocate it to young families. But in my opinion, we have now the European idea of and the frame of the affordable housing. Also on national level, we have a clear frame and the way we all should go. But I think in Croatia, like in another state in the European Union, we have to harmonize our legislative. So now we have laws, for example, for taxes and in tourist law and so on that are not harmonized. For example, we are in our program 30 by 30. We get for young family, we are giving 30,000 euros, but the city is giving 12,000 euros more to the state. So the cost for the city of Dubrovnik is not 30,000. And for example, if you have 30 families and 12,000 euros for each, we give more. We should take this money and I don't know, buy another apartment in the old city. So that's why we need cooperate. But I told already that every city has his own specifics. So it's not the same affordable housing in Dubrovnik or in Slavonski Brod or somewhere else, or in Istra. Every part of Croatia, every part of Europe has own specifics. So I think it's the best to harmonize the laws to get the general agenda, and then enable the local municipalities and give them power to do all the things, because the local governments are closer to their people. They know the best their needs and the problems that are facing their citizens.
Yeah, of course. As I mentioned, the struggle happens on local level. Laura, could you reflect shortly on the results and the effects that housing partnership of the urban agenda had on the this discussion and discourse that we are having? Because especially in this relation of involving the national level, each thematic partnership in the urban agenda also has representatives of national level. So how do you comment this? How did it have really some effect on changing the political discourse in member state, or is it still being discussed only on European level because they see the big picture, and of course on the local level because they are facing these disruptions every day?
What an interesting question. What an interesting question, because I follow the urban agenda from the outset, from the very beginning. And I have to say that when it was called when it came together, it was kind of forgotten, this topic, in the EU debate. And it was really the commitment of the city of Vienna, Michaela Kauer, and Elena Sorgayova as well, to create this partnership. And I remember that it was really, yeah, we were sort of kind of pioneer when we were discussing this. And to a certain, obviously not pioneer, there were people like Housing Europe and Fianza and other people that were working, of course, on this topic, but not together. That was the big change. So it really created a momentum for the 2 or 3 years that we worked together, of thinking together with cities, international organization, and the European Commission. That was the first effect, because that's not obvious that that something like this hadn't happened before. To have cities, we had 5 cities representative in the partnership, big cities, including Berlin, Athens, Helsinki, if I don't remember, Lisbon, for instance. So that is the first effect. Second effect is that created a tam-tam also in the debate at European level. Obviously, it came also afterwards COVID, and that created additional resonance to the topic. But I remember that when Kim from Sparintak presented the report on housing affordability, she consulted with the people of the urban agenda. So the resolution of the parliament at that time also, I wouldn't say that it was a direct consequence, but it contributed somehow to that activity, to that resolution. Third point was the creation of the European Platform on Combating Homelessness, which is called EPOC platform. Now, this stays, you may say this stays at European level, but it has influenced also the fact that more and more people became engaged in this topic. And also because and also the Urban Innovative Action and URBACT, they started to work, also with my initiative, they started to work more on this topic, that they had done it like 20 years before, at least in the case of URBACT. And then there was one of the action of the urban agenda on affordable housing was specifically on the changes of the state aid regulations, which is a very particular case, which I will not debate now because it's very technical. But if you're curious, just read what was in the action plan and look what is the debate now on the changing of the regulation of the state aid dedicated to people with vulnerabilities in relation to housing. Another outcome, I think, was not in this partnership of affordable housing, but another partnership of culture and cultural heritage of the urban agenda, where we had an action of better regulation of Airbnb and short-term rental. That was a small discussion, but we were, through the urban agenda, we have been in contact with the DG competition, which usually doesn't work at all with cities. DG competition is markets, doesn't work with cities. But somehow, through the urban agenda, we became in dialogue, and the DG competition created an action directed to cities for better regulation for more transparency, for instance. And the whole thing happened at the same time when Eurocities was supporting an action of 20 cities, including Paris, Barcelona, Amsterdam. They were really campaigning to get better regulation for cities. So you see that for cities in terms of short-term rental. So you see that the machine is extremely slow, but there have been one of the impact of the initiative of the urban agenda was to make the machine in motion, to bring somehow the cities in dialogue and member states whenever they wanted. They are, I would say, still a bottleneck for many, depending also on the political positioning of the national government in relation to housing. But they have been the urban agenda helps, I can say, that to set in motion this ongoing dialogue, this sort of growing interest, which also grew among the civil society through initiative. If I can remember what we were in 2015, before the starting of the urban agenda, housing was not a major topic of discussion all over the places. Now it's like, it's the topic if you think of in terms of justice in cities, because almost everywhere, even in small and medium sized, where I am now, which is the metropolitan area of Barcelona, of Madrid, you have a problem of housing, which is connected to work, to the fact the salaries have been frozen, and the prices of houses, as you demonstrated very clearly, have been skyrocketing. Rents and so this connection between jobs and accessibility to housing, it's key, and it's and hasn't been on the table of the agenda of many member states. So I would say that the urban agenda, coming back to your question, the agenda really helped to a certain level to push this debate, but it doesn't solve alone all the problematic.
Yeah, of course. Now it's on the member states and cooperation and partnership with cities to push this agenda on. I have a hand raised from Balázs. Balázs, please.
Yes, I would like to just come back to your presentation, Marko, that Croatia and Hungary has a similarity of the percentage of ownership of the apartments or dwellings and homes, like it's 91%. This is very close. And Hungary it's a tradition in Hungary that it's a social I don't know, goal or purpose to own your apartment, and the Hungarian government support these the ownership and not the rental part. So in the last 14 years, Hungarian government gave 10 billion euro for young families who can who have 2 or 3 children, and they have a non-refundable grant to buy family houses. And the problem was that with this middle class get those people, they have their own contribution to buy a family house, and those the most vulnerable part of the society, they and if they don't have children or they were older than 35 years old, they can't get anything from this grant. So now we see in Budapest that around 25% of the residents are in housing crisis or energy poverty. So it's about 500,000 people from the 2 million living in Budapest. So 500,000 people is in some kind of housing crisis. And if we would like to deal with the 10% of these, so the most vulnerable 10%, it's 50,000 people. And if the municipality of Budapest would like to buy or build or somehow to make these 50,000 new apartments as affordable housing, it's like 5 billion euro, and not million, but billion. So it's 1,000 times more than we had in this pilot project. So what we see that until the member state or the state doesn't start a program for building municipality-owned or state-owned rental houses, it can't be scaling up. So it's just stay a pilot in the municipality level.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that you mentioned part of it. Yeah, this percentage of ownership that is similar in Croatia and Hungary, also in some other Eastern European countries. I mean, part of this was aftermath of our 90s situation when we privatized a lot of social housing that we had, and that was, sounded like a great idea at that time. But 30 years later, we are, cities. A lot of cities are facing this issue that they don't have enough public housing to support all the needs. But yeah. we are a bit closing to this part of the discussion, so I would like to ask one question for Ivana and Balázs, and it's a matter of this partnership issue or opportunities. Especially, Balázs, you mentioned that in your project you're having different partners. In comparison to our, previous conclusion that the state needs to put additional effort and public investments, do you foresee any use of public-private partnerships? So, to this project, are you going to tackle this issue? Do you think that this could be kind of maybe not a solution, but a helping tool to address the issue of affordable housing? So public-private partnership. Yeah, Balázs and then Ivana can also comment later.
Yes, from our side, it's a double-sided story. That from the NGO side, like Streets to Home Association or Central Architecture Association, we have a very positive experience with those NGOs, and they have a very nice field work and has an ability to make the involvement of the local participant and the local neighborhoods. This part is very positive. The other part, what you asked for, the public-private partnership, in our project, it's quite early because it just started 4 months ago, and we have a sustainability plan and a sustainability working group that will work with banks and investment companies. But our milestones are first to see these school building, these unused school building, how it's working on as a demonstration project. And that would be, this will be the first the school building in Budapest at all that will turn to housing purpose. So it's a new thing in Budapest, and that would be, we would like to use as a best practice to ask or go to and have negotiation with the investment companies too, because Budapest has another municipality of Budapest has 15 or 20 unused school building, so we have more potential to scaling up, and this could be the first. Yeah, this is our side now at the project.
Thank you, Ivana. What's your take on this issue? So you mentioned that the city of Dubrovnik was consulting the citizens and so on. Do you foresee any, let's say, probability to expand this to some concrete partnership, whether with civil sector organization or maybe even some private investors?
I don't see the problems. We have issues, of course, but we have examples on the other topics that we cooperate very well. So I think also on this topic that we could develop some projects together. So on first, I think for the private investors, I think we should put the supportive policies such as tax initiatives and so on, to encourage private investors to affordable housing. And for example, we have a cooperation with private investors and private housing in the projects of energetic reconstruction of the buildings for a more efficient energy. So we are doing the projects on the public buildings, and in cooperation with them, we are reconstructing also the private housing in the city of Dubrovnik. Or so on that example, I think that we could develop new programs in cooperation with private-public cooperation.
Partnership. Yeah. My personal take is that our let's say this social entrepreneur scene, at least in Croatia, is still a bit maybe not young, but not strong enough for this kind of project. We heard from Laura's presentation, and there are so many other examples to Europe that successful partnership regularly involves partners from as cooperatives or some other social entrepreneurs. I haven't heard many examples of classic private investors who are in the business of profit making, because when we talk about affordability, usually profit is not there to be the most important thing. So yeah, we could support this with different kind of incentives. It would be interesting to see how the thing will develop in the future. So yeah, as we mentioned it before, the whole topic of affordable housing and housing in general is quite complex. So we couldn't provide any concrete answers only to this webinar, but definitely this topic will stay with us, especially now when this drafting of our first Croatian first national housing strategy is being done. So yeah, at least for our audience from the Croatia, we believe that we hope to follow this topic even more. Yeah, I think that we used our time for discussion. So I would like to thank all three of our speakers very much for their presentation and contribution to the discussion. Without further delay, I would like to call my colleague Lucia. There's one. Laura wants to say something. Laura, please.
Yeah, I think I want to thank you and your whole team for organizing this, also in the name of the National URBACT Point and in the name of the EUI, because we need this kind of initiative to keep the discussion ongoing and to be visible, so in public discussion. Because when you said what is the action of the urban agenda, I said that. And so we need really committed people like you that want to raise the bar and want to look for, good solutions that makes housing more accessible and dignified. I have problems also with the concept of affordable, because affordable for whom it's always a problematic term. But I would say accessible, and then we use all the platform also for debating and thinking and reasoning about it together. So thank you very much also for the initiative and for inviting me.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for the kind words. I'm sure that we will stay in contact regarding this topic in the future. So as I mentioned earlier, Lucia will brief us a bit with ongoing news regarding URBACT and EUI. And then I will close later with few words to summarize this webinar. Lucia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marko. Sorry. The question is this presentation visible to you?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, just a second then. As Marko said, I will present a few updates regarding the offer of URBACT and EUI to the Croatian cities. So that's why I will continue to speak in Croatian from now on. Tako da evo, dobar dan svima. Dakle, kao što je na početku spomenuto, samo sekundicu, imam ovdje problem zato što paralelno čujem i prijevod. Okay, now when we sorted this problem, I will continue in Croatian. Dakle, ovako, imamo ponudu, znači, URBACT-a i Europske urbane inicijative. Kao što je Marko na početku rekao, Udruga gradova je kontakt točka za ova dva programa, tako da evo nekoliko novosti o otvorenim pozivima, događanjima i konzultacijama koje su trenutno otvorene. Što se tiče poziva Europske urbane inicijative za inovativne akcije, on je otvoren još 6. svibnja. Ovaj poziv ostaje otvoren sve do 14. listopada i zapravo kroz taj poziv za inovativne akcije Europska urbana inicijativa nastoji financirati inovativna rješenja kroz koje gradovi zapravo rješavaju neke urbane izazove. S obzirom na trenutno aktualna zbivanja kako u Europi, tako i u svijetu, Europska komisija je definirala dva područja. To je područje energetske tranzicije i područje tehnologije u gradovima. Dakle, gradovi mogu prijavljivati projekte iz ova dva područja. Na ovom slajdu vam zapravo ostavljamo i link na službenu web stranicu poziva. Isto tako na YouTube kanalu Udruge gradova možete pronaći snimku službenog predstavljanja poziva na hrvatskom jeziku koji su održali predstavnici samog tajništva Europske urbane inicijative. Što se tiče City to City razmjena, dakle riječ je o aktivnosti koju također podržava Europska urbana inicijativa. To je aktivnost koja je namijenjena jačanju kapaciteta. Koncept je takav da uvijek postoji jedan grad koji se suočava sa određenim izazovom održivog urbanog razvoja i imamo drugi grad koji ima nekako iskustvo i potrebne kapacitete za rješavanje tog problema. A ono što je dobro, ovaj poziv je kontinuirano otvoren, tako da se gradovi mogu prijaviti u bilo kojem trenutku i više informacija možete pronaći upravo na linku koji ostavljamo na slajdu. Europska urbana inicijativa financijski podržava održavanje ovakvih razmjena. Za sve one kojima je interesantna tema kulture i kulturne baštine, Europska urbana inicijativa organizira 26. i 27. rujna u Grčkoj u gradu Kalandriju Focused EUI Policy Lab, dakle na temu kulture u službi pozitivnih urbanih promjena, kako korištenjem kulture i kulturne baštine se mogu osnažiti lokalne zajednice i kako se na posljedku mogu stvoriti održivi gradovi. Ovo događanje je u prvom redu namijenjeno predstavnicima europskih gradova, ali isto tako svi urbani praktičari, svi stručnjaci kojima je kultura i kulturna baština u fokusu mogu sudjelovati na ovom događanju. Link za prijavu je na slajdu. Prijave idu preko službene stranice Europske urbane inicijative i broj mjesta je ograničen, tako da svi zainteresirani bi se trebali prijaviti što prije. Što se tiče novosti iz URBACT-a, URBACT vas moli da do 31. srpnja popunite anketu. Riječ je o konzultacijama, dakle o savjetovanju o budućnosti teritorijalne suradnje nakon 2027. godine, dakle u sklopu novog financijskog okvira. Ovo je prilika da se čuje vaš glas i da na neki način zapravo date svoj doprinos u oblikovanju buduće kohezijske politike. Još malo dobrih vijesti iz URBACT-a, dakle krajem lipnja je odobreno 10 mreža za prijenos inovacija. Ovo je novi tip mreža u sklopu URBACT-a, to su mreže koje će prilagođavati, prenositi uspješno provedene projekte iz urbanih inovativnih akcija. U tih 10 odobrenih mreža trenutno sudjeluje 61 partner iz 19 država i hrvatski partneri sudjeluju u 2 od 10 mreža. Tako da evo ovim putem još jednom čestitke Dubrovačkoj razvojnoj agenciji i gradu Zagrebu. Dubrovačka razvojna agencija sudjeluje u mreži Recap koja će se baviti zapravo inovativnim korištenjem kulture i kreativnosti za osnaživanje zajednice, a grad Zagreb u mreži PE Academy koja će se fokusirati na inovativna rješenja u integraciji izbjeglica i migranata u gradovima. Još jedan poziv koji je zatvoren, dakle URBACT je dao gradovima priliku da kandidiraju dobre prakse kojima se ponose i oni gradovi koji zadovolje kriterije mogu dobiti oznaku URBACT Good Practice. Na taj poziv je pristiglo ukupno 249 prijava iz 184 grada iz 32 države. Imamo ukupno 5 prijava iz Hrvatske i u ovom periodu sada su u tijeku zapravo evaluacije. One će biti gotove u listopadu, tako da bi početkom studenog trebali imati rezultate. Ono što je ovdje bitno spomenuti je da gradovi koji uspiju dobiti URBACT Good Practice oznaku mogu sljedeće godine, znači 2025. postati vodeći partneri u sklopu URBACT mreža za prijenos, a naravno i svi drugi gradovi koji su zainteresirani za URBACT mreže za prijenos se mogu prijaviti kao partneri. Jednom kad taj poziv bude otvoren, mi ćemo kao kontakt točka naravno organizirati webinar i pojasniti sve detalje poziva. Evo za kraj, po prvi puta zapravo javno komuniciramo i najavljujemo da u svojstvu naših aktivnosti kao kontakt točka za ove dva programa organiziramo konferenciju pod nazivom Urbani forum, produktivni, zeleni i pravedni urbani razvoj. Konferencija će se održati u Zagrebu 1. i 2. listopada ove godine i nekakva nit vodilja iza organizacije ove konferencije je zapravo da želimo okupiti sve relevantne dionike iz područja održivog urbanog razvoja i kohezijske politike u Hrvatskoj. Isto tako cilj je i samog naslova forum, nekakav cilj je stvoriti jedno mjesto za dijalog, za razmjenu mišljenja kako bismo onda posljedično pokušali utjecati na javne politike kako na hrvatskoj razini, tako i na europskoj razini, na sve one javne politike koje utječu na gradove. Eto, više informacija će biti dostupno uskoro, tako da preporučam da svakako pratite web udruge gradova. A osim toga, kolega Marko i ja vam stojimo na raspolaganju, ovdje su naši kontakti. Možete pratiti naše društvene mreže, prisutni smo na Facebooku, X-u, LinkedInu. Možete se pretplatiti na naš newsletter koji dolazi jednom u 2 mjeseca. Naravno, ne smijemo zaboraviti, postoji i stranica Europske urbane inicijative na hrvatskom jeziku, stranica URBACT-a na hrvatskom jeziku i naravno stranica udruge gradova. Eto, toliko od mene za sada. Ispričavam se još jednom na onim malim tehničkim poteškoćama na početku, ali eto, to je nekakva čar ovih online druženja. I ja bi sad dala opet riječ Marku da zaključi ovo naše današnje druženje. Hvala, Marko, izvolim.
Thank you, Lucia. I will go back in English to stay for my beginning of the webinar. So yeah, after this almost 2 hours of presentation and discussion, it would be good to try to wrap up with the conclusion. So basically, yeah, the situation in member states is different, of course. There is other many specifics regarding the housing and the way of living and so on. But despite those differences, most of European cities share common problems in regard to high house and rent prices and lack of affordable housing. Through all this discussion, we could see that there is enough evidence that we need to implement a shared policy solutions to address these challenges, while also respecting the subsidiarity principle. Local authorities do play a crucial role in achieving the goals for affordable housing, of course, with the support of state, its public funding, tax system, and so on. Besides the obvious results and effects, we can say that public investment in affordable housing has many benefits, from the multiplier effect on the local economy, reduction of CO2 emissions, supporting the combating of climate change, especially in using sustainable housing principles. And then those social aspects, for example, prevention of social exclusion and economic inequality, and so on. Listening to our speakers, I have a strong impression that affordable housing policies should also foster development of new partnerships with the inclusion of private sector, non-governmental organization, civil sector, and of course public institutions and their public companies. This kind of partnership can develop innovative housing solutions, such as cooperative housing or social and community housing and so on. In addition to that, as we also saw in the example of Budapest, but some other cases, regeneration of brownfields or reuse of empty unused buildings has a huge potential to support reaching this goal for affordable housing. So while the national level provides necessary legal framework to make it happen, cities should not overlook the options for funding and networking that is available at the EU level. Both EUI and URBACT, as well as some other programs, can help in building city capacities to plan, design, and execute necessary policy measures and actions, although they may not provide enough financial means to make it happen all. So to basically to conclude, I hope this webinar was interesting for you and that inspired you to think at least about some possible activities that you can undertake in your own local context. As I mentioned several times during this webinar, Croatia is going through drafting of its first housing strategy, so it's a good moment to join the discussion and the political debate. It will be even more important as we approach the end of the year. Housing is a complex issue, but affordable housing is necessary, especially when we talk about sustainable urban development. We all need to make our contribution, however small, to make this goal happen. So I'm sure we will continue to follow this topic, so feel free to contact us with your ideas, comments, and proposals. For all questions regarding EUI and URBACT, as Lucia mentioned, we remain at your disposal. So I sincerely thank you all for your attention and questions. Once more, I would like to thank our guests for sharing their inspiring experience and knowledge. I wish them good luck in their projects. Until the next opportunity arises, I wish you a good rest of the day and all the best in your work. With this 1 minute before noon as planned, which is always nice, I wish you goodbye and see you some other time.
Thank you, Marko.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You should change the channel. to some other check what's the channel